just so happy my father had a chance to see his kids before he passed. I just want to say thank you.
When her father fell ill, the American Red Cross was able to help get Veronica's brother home from the Navy to speak to his father one last time. It's thanks to your donations that we can connect military families when they need it most. Please donate today at redcross.org.
If you want to work until you keel over, have less of everything in retirement, or give back more of your hard-earned money to the stock market again, then just ignore me. But if you'd like to protect the money you save, receive a steady, predictable retirement income, and enjoy financial security for as long as you live, then listen to this. You can download a free report that reveals the wealth-building secrets Wall Street and the banks don't want you to know. You'll learn how you can get guaranteed growth, safety, and real prosperity without risking your money in the Wall Street casino, and how to get the money you need when you need it, simply by asking for it. This is the best way to have a 100% secure retirement and know your money will last as long as you do. To learn more about this method and to get your free report, go to 52security.com. That's the number 52security.com. 52security.com. Go to 52security.com.
Hurt or injured in a car accident? It can be hard to take the proper legal action after a car accident, but waiting can cost you more. The law requires car accident victims to assert claims promptly. You could lose out by simply waiting. Call 800-709-4667 right now to see what your claim could be worth when handled by a skilled attorney. With a lawyer fighting and speaking up for you, you could be entitled to a big cash award. Call 800-709-4667. That's 800-709-4667. Now it's fast and easy to connect with the legal help you need after your car accident. Call 800-709-4667. The call is free, but you need to act now before time runs out on your claim. You need a lawyer to fight for you, protect you, and get you the compensation you need and deserve. Time's wasting. Call 800-709-4667. That's 800-709-4667. Call now.
I considered suicide so I wouldn't put my family through all the pain.
Many of our warriors are returning home from the battlefield, only to face a new war as they struggle with devastating injuries. At Wounded Warrior Project, we understand. We're there to help.
Even though you think you're broken, you're not. It's the physical and the emotional healing that Wounded Warrior Project provides.
With a gift of just $19 a month, you can join Wounded Warrior Project. You'll help provide critically needed programs and services that rebuild lives.
Beautiful. There you go, buddy.
The ongoing needs of our wounded and their families will continue for many years to come. Now is the time to show your support. Call now or go online with your gift of just $19 a month and we'll send you this Wounded Warrior Project blanket.
It made me feel that there's people out there that care about us.
After this event, we can finally maybe start to heal as a family and move forward.
We need your help. The families are hurting.
For many of our wounded heroes, the greatest casualty is being forgotten. That's why your gift of just $19 a month is so important. Please, call or go online right now.
The following letters were written by our troops.
My dear fellow Americans, I truly appreciate your support. I was starting to wonder if people had forgotten about us over here. But then one of my buddies showed me this website, and now as tears are streaming down my face, I can see for sure that you haven't. Private Emily B., U.S. Army.
It's so heartwarming to see the American people not letting the men and women of the armed forces be forgotten. Your letters make a group of grown men, battle-hardened and gruff, act like a bunch of kids around a Christmas tree. Thanks. Staff Sergeant Matthew H., U.S. Army.
Your support may be the most important thing our troops can carry with them. But don't take our word for it. Take theirs. To show your support, visit americasupportsyou.mil. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Defense and the Ad Council.
Millions of Americans every day are shedding unwanted pounds by taking tested and proven Ultra-Lipo Stick. Carbohydrates are bad. Our carbo-fighting antioxidant is good. Just listen to these satisfied customers.
My name is Gail, and I lost like 20 pounds on Ultra-Lipo Stick.
My name is Jared, and I lost 46 pounds using Ultra-Lipo Stick.
My name is Zach, and I actually gained weight. This stuff sucks!
Ultra-Lipo Stick is safe and easy to inject. Just 3 doses 4 times a day discreetly underneath your fingernail. Listen to this.
I used Ultra-Lipo Stick and suffered from side effects like uncontrollable greasy discharge.
Ultra-Lipo Stick, it turned the armpits of all of my shirts orange. This stuff is crap.
Try it today and see some real results. Ultra-Lipo Stick. Not available in stores. Results may vary.
Zinc Media. Feel the power of knowledge.
Most politically incorrect black man on the planet, Rod Eccles.
Well, hello, my fellow Americans and fellow liberty lovers all across this globe that we call Earth. It is I, your lovable host, El Rod, coming to you live from my bunkerized home studio somewhere within the great granite state of New Hampshire, where the state motto is still live free or die. It is not big government or bust. It is Tuesday, June the 30th in the year of our Lord 2015. We are now at the end of June. So it is safe to say that it is time to start summer. Yes, indeedy. It is time to start summer. However, somebody, I think, forgot to tell Mother Nature of what summer is supposed to actually be. Being humans, being the humans that we are, the puny little tiny humans in the greater scheme of things, of the planet and the universe, we should demand that Mother Nature do what she's supposed to be doing for summer and make it hot, very hot for summer, because she really hasn't been doing a good job. And she made it too cold for winter, and she's not making it very hot for summer. The number that you can call this evening is toll-free, 603-835-3224. And I know some of you are thinking, Rod is just, he's crazy if you think Mother Nature's going to listen to us. Well, obviously, Mother Nature is listening to us because, we're affecting her and she's getting a cold or something, or fever, global warming. I have some global warming news for you. We'll get into that a little bit later, as well as some other stuff, some rent control stuff, some Greece details, and really how it affects, what happens here in the U.S. and Puerto Rico, and some Obama news, of course, and some news from the FCC about the internet. Now, I know a lot of you are probably thinking and talking about the news of Chris Christie announcing today. And, I said that Chris Christie probably wasn't going to get in the race. I wasn't completely wrong, because I didn't say that he would not. I said he most likely would not. And quite frankly, I think maybe he might be one of the first ones to leave the race, or get booted, if you will. And that's simply because of, some of the rhetoric that he's that he spewed today. Now, he talked about compromise, how the Founding Fathers had to compromise in order to commit to the revolution. In fact, he said, today in his speech, in his announcement speech, he said, both parties have failed our country. Both parties have stood in the corner and held their breath and waited to get their own way. Both parties have led us to believe that in America, a country that was built on compromise, that somehow now compromise is a dirty word. If Washington, Adams, and Jefferson believed compromise was a dirty word, we'd still be under the crown of England. Now, I got to tell you, that's a little bit wrong. Because there was no compromise between Washington, Adams, and Jefferson, or any of the Founding Fathers as far as going to war against the crown. They were all in. There was no compromise there. They said, hey, George, we're going to make you the general of the Continental Army, of the Revolutionary Army, and you're going to go out there and you're going to kick King George's butt. Plain and simple. You're going to win our freedom and form a new nation. You got it? No compromise. There is no surrender. All our lives are on the line here. No retreat, no surrender. Capiche? And George said, capiche. Got it. Although he retreated many times over the course of the Revolutionary War, he didn't compromise and give up. He didn't surrender. And when it really counted is when he won. Plain and simple. There was no compromise there, so I don't know where Governor Christie is getting this notion that they compromised in order to form the country. Now, once the Revolutionary War is over and the job came down to actually forming a coalition government, if you will, a union, formalizing the Constitution. Once the war was over and Britain capitulated and left the colonies alone for a little while anyway, and the British armies on American soil surrendered, gave up, compromised, if you will. That's when there was some compromise that was made. Now you have to understand what that compromise was. And the compromise was, because Adams and a few of the other founding fathers from the northern states, they lamented having to compromise in such a manner because they wanted to have a nation that was based on all men being created equal, and they wanted to have a nation based on equality and based on opportunity. They wanted to have a nation where anybody could come and work hard and smart, and pursue their own happiness. Now, the compromise was in order to do this, in order to form the Union, and so they could be strong enough to defend against, foreign invaders and anybody else who wanted to butt their nose into the fledgling United States. They needed all the colonies to join together. That meant the southern colonies as well. You couldn't have a nation with 13 colonies. You couldn't have a nation of just 6 or 7. They needed all 13 back in the day. So the compromise was, some, kind of like Animal Farm. Some are more equal. Some men are created more equal than others. And so that compromise of slavery was codified into the Constitution due to the Southern Democratic states. Now, understand that there wasn't a Republican Party back then. In the 1700s and early 1800s, there was no Republican Party. I mean, truth be told, it was the Whig and the Democratic Republican Party. you had the Whig Party, W-H-I-G, Whig, and the Democratic Republican Party, hyphen, Democratic Republican. Now, there were two distinct factions in the Democratic Republican Party, and I'll give you a hint. It's in the name. Now, when Abraham Lincoln came along and decided to run for the presidency, and he was basically saying, we can't compromise on this anymore. He said we can't compromise on certain things like slavery. Can't compromise on it anymore. There cannot be any slavery. You cannot have a nation that proclaims to be free, where all men are free to, due to inalienable rights from God, to pursue their own happiness when you have slavery. Can't compromise on that anymore. So the Democratic Republican Party proceeded to split apart and form the Democratic Party and the Republican Party. Now, the Whigs were still around, but the Whigs were, pretty much like today's, modern Republican blue bloods. They didn't get it. And so the Republicans basically said, well, there can't be any slavery anymore. And the Democrats were saying, well, either you take slavery or we're going to secede. And Lincoln said, well, you can't secede because then we won't have a nation anymore and we'll both fall apart, and neither one will. So the Confederacy will not survive and the Union will not survive. So we can't have that. But so there was no compromising on it. See that? No compromise. They were the North was telling the South, you can't have slavery anymore, and the South was saying, well, no, we're going to have slavery. They weren't willing to. There was no compromise. The compromise came back in the late 1700s, when they were first trying to form a coalition government, if you will, and get the whole Constitution passed and ratified. That's where the evil compromise came in. So compromise hasn't really been good since day one, but Chris Christie is out there telling us that, the reason why our government isn't doing anything is because both parties are digging in their heels and not willing to compromise. Well, Mr. Christie, the last time this country really did do a compromise thing, it codified in the Constitution that African Americans are only 3/5 human and could remain as slaves to white slaveholders in the South. Is that the type of compromise that you want, Mr. Christie? Are we going to get that kind of compromise? No, I don't want compromise. The American people don't want compromise. They want their representatives to do what they promised they said they were going to do, and which is why they got elected. Okay, go to Capitol Hill and repeal freaking Obamacare. There's no compromise there, Mr. Christie. Repeal Obamacare. We didn't say go there and replace it with a better Republican plan. We said go there and repeal Obamacare. That was the whole thing, not to replace it with something else, or maybe we'll get it repealed, or if Obama doesn't sign it, then I guess we're not going to get it done. No, we said we are electing you to go there and get that done. No compromise. There is no room for compromise. Plain and simple. That's not how this country was started. That's not how this country grew. Because when it came down to it, and you had to make a decision about how this country was going to continue, there was no compromise. South in slavery. The South said, "Oh, hell no. We won't." And so, along with a bunch of other, important items, when the South tried to secede and form the Confederacy, Lincoln said, "Oh, hell no," and laid out a whole list of things, slavery being one of them. That's why it was the war between the states, because there was no compromise. You can't compromise when one side is wrong. Plain and simple. The Democrats, in this particular case, were wrong. Slavery was wrong. Some of their other ideals down in the South were wrong. There was no compromise to that. So this whole notion that, Chris Christie, go back to New Jersey now, as far as I'm concerned. I'm washing my hands of you. I'm done with you. You're no different from the blue-blooded Republicans as far as I'm concerned. I fully understand and get from the state from whence he came. He hails from, the great small state of New Jersey. I get it. And there are no real true conservatives down there in New Jersey. I get it. But that doesn't mean that we want New Jersey, moderation in the White House. Plain and simple, we don't. We don't want somebody who's going to compromise. Now, you probably say, well, Rod, did you used to say that Obama didn't want to compromise? Well, yeah. But see, there's a different story there. And here's why. When you're the president and you're trying to mediate between two sides because you want to get something done, well, you have to moderate your position in order to get things done. You have to say, okay, if Republicans, you want A, and Democrats, you want B. Now, the president has to say, well, I kind of want something like AB. Maybe we can make it a C. So then the president has to put in his 2 cents and say, how about a C, and show leadership and say, see, this is not necessarily compromise, but this is where we both get what we want. Both sides get what they want. Win-win. It's called negotiating. It's not called compromising. It's called negotiating. It's called win-win. There's a difference between compromising, because compromising is when you decide to give in on something that you know is wrong, i.e. you end up with slavery, or you do a win-win. Now, see, win-win would be, hey, look, South, let's put in some sort of labor, rules and regulations. So these people who are African Americans can no longer be slaves, but they would, you would still be able to make a profit by paying them a fair wage. How about we do that? See, no compromise. That's a C. Instead of just, that's a position C. Instead of just saying no slavery. Well, the South was saying, well, screw you. We're not going to go broke and starve down here. Slavery. Well, how about if we make it so the blacks can be free and they can still work and so you can still turn a profit? There's no compromise. It's just a new plan. C. But that's not what they did. The North compromised and gave in. See, compromising is giving in to the other side. That's what everybody wants. Well, that's what the Democrats want. They want the those in the right to compromise, and that means, why don't you just cross the aisle? Not, you never hear Democrats say, well, we're going to cross the aisle with the Republic. No, they never say we're going to meet you in the aisle. No. They're going to say you Republicans need to cross the aisle, meaning you need to come to our side. You need to compromise and give us what we want, at least more of what we want than what you want. Well, that's not negotiating. That's compromise. That's trying to force the right of the political aisle to compromise and give up whatever they believe in. Pretty much what the North did on slavery in order to get the South to capitulate and accept the Constitution. Because they weren't going to do it without it. Which would have been stupid on their part, because all England would have had to do is just wait and just pick us off one by one back then. And those in the North knew that that was going to happen if they did not have the C word, compromise. So this whole notion that Christie is saying that we need to, have parties, the two parties need to compromise. I don't know where he gets that kind of crock from. Unless, of course, he's really secretly a Democrat, because it always seems like in a compromise, the Republicans always seem to, what? Lose. We always seem to lose on that. And I don't... Look, I'm not gonna sit here and say that, that we need to, always... Well, yeah, we do. Republicans always need to play hard-nosed politics with Democrats. With liberals, you gotta. You can't let your guard down, even for an instant. You have always got to play hardball with them. Because they're always playing the game. And they're always deciding, way ahead of time what they're going to do and say in order to get their way. They'll pull out. You ever notice how it seems like whenever there's a talking point or a particular word, that everybody on the left is using it at the same time? Remember the gravitas? Gravitas. Does he have gravitas? Do you think that was just, by osmosis that it naturally happened? No, of course not. Those were talking points. That was a word that was chosen and then put out there for everybody on the left to use. For them to say, well, does he have gravitas? Well, who was using that word before? Nobody. Nobody was using it. Then all of a sudden, everybody was using it. And this is how the left works. They're not in it to compromise. They're in it to get their way. And they will do shrewd, backhanded things in order to get their way without compromise. And the problem is that Republicans, they act like they don't know how to play that game. Well, if they really don't know how to play that game, they better, learn real fast. Because they're going to get beat every time if they don't. And you can always tell when the Democratic machine, a propaganda machine, is functioning on all cylinders, because you're hear a word or a phrase repeated over and over again by everybody in the mainstream media, and all of the elected politicians on the left will use that word or phrase all at the same time. It's like they all learn a new word, at the same time. And they, remember when you were in school and you learned a new word. You tried to use it all the time to with your parents and stuff to show them how smart you were. And sometimes your parents may laugh at it, but at least they're getting the point that you're actually learning something. And so they let you go with it. Well, the Democrats think that they could still do the same thing, but adults look at that and say, wait a minute, why is everybody using the same word all of a sudden? Do they have the same teacher? Little Jimmy and little Jimmy's best friend, they're in the same class, so they have the same teacher, so they're learning the same word, and they're both trying to use it. We get that, but all you Democrats and you lamestream media-ites, you all using the same word or phrase? Would you have the same teacher? No, but they get their marching orders from the same people from the left in the Democrat Party. So, when they get, but they're not looking to compromise, that's for sure. When they're doing this, they're looking to beat, defeat, crush. And I think it's interesting because now you're starting to get this this mantra from the left that, oh yeah, Chris Christie's reasonable. He's a reasonable conservative, and the Republicans should elect a reasonable, moderate conservative like Christie, because they know that they'll be able to beat a moderate, a so-called reasonable moderate, because they did last 2 times. We put moderates up there, they beat them. This is what the Democrats want. You can't let the Democrats decide who the Republican nominee. If you ever, maybe the Republicans should start going out there and saying, yeah, we want Hillary to be the Democratic nominee. Dude, go ahead, put her up there. You'll start to see Democrats probably sweat bullets on that. Wait a minute. They want Hillary to be the nominee? Oh, no. We better not compromise on this. We better find somebody else, because if they want her, that means that they're for sure going to beat her. We can't have that. Not at all. We'll be back.
Hi, I'm George Foreman. Do you have an idea for a new product or invention? People ask me all the time, George, how do I get my idea in front of companies? How do I get a patent? What do I do next? I'll tell you like I'll tell them all. Call my friends at InventHelp.
Call InventHelp today for free information. InventHelp can submit your invention to companies who are interested in receiving new ideas. Call InventHelp today.
To get your free inventor's information, call 1-800-352-1609. That's 1-800-352-1609.
If you want to work until you keel over, have less of everything in retirement, or give back more of your hard-earned money to the stock market again, then just ignore me. But if you'd like to protect the money you save, receive a steady, predictable retirement income, and enjoy financial security for as long as you live, then listen to this. You can download a free report that reveals the wealth-building secrets Wall Street and the banks don't want you to know. You'll learn how you can get guaranteed growth, safety, and real prosperity without risking your money in the Wall Street casino, and how to get the money you need when you need it, simply by asking for it. This is the best way to have a 100% secure retirement, and know your money will last as long as you do. To learn more about this method, and to get your free report, go to 52security.com. That's the number 52security.com. 52security.com. Go to 52security.com.
Hurt or injured in a car accident? It can be hard to take the proper legal action after a car accident, but waiting can cost you more. The law requires car accident victims to assert claims promptly. You could lose out by simply waiting. Call 800-709-4667 right now to see what your claim could be worth when handled by a skilled attorney. With a lawyer fighting and speaking up for you, you could be entitled to a big cash award. Call 800-709-4667. That's 800-709-4667. Now it's fast and easy to connect with the legal help you need after your car accident. Call 800-709-4667. The call is free, but you need to act now before time runs out on your claim. You need a lawyer to fight for you, protect you, and get you the compensation you need and deserve. Time's wasting. Call 800-709-4667. That's 800-709-4667. Call now.
I considered suicide so I wouldn't put my family through all the pain.
Many of our warriors are returning home from the battlefield, only to face a new war as they struggle with devastating injuries. At Wounded Warrior Project, we understand. We're there to help.
Even though you think you're broken, you're not. It's the physical and the emotional healing that Wounded Warrior Project provides.
With a gift of just $19 a month, you can join Wounded Warrior Project. You'll help provide critically needed programs and services that rebuild lives.
Beautiful. There you go, buddy.
The ongoing needs of our wounded and their families will continue for many years to come. Now is the time to show your support. Call now or go online with your gift of just $19 a month, and we'll send you this Wounded Warrior Project blanket.
It made me feel that there's people out there that care about us.
After this event, we can finally maybe start to heal as a family and move forward.
We need your help. The families are hurting.
For many of our wounded heroes, the greatest casualty is being forgotten. That's why your gift of just $19 a month is so important. Please call or go online right now.
You shouldn't have to pay to talk to the people closest to you, or the people who used to be. That's why Umbrella Wireless is proud to announce the new Friends, Family, and Recent Ex-Girlfriend plan. Now you'll get unlimited calls to your best buddy, your mom, or Cindy, once she realizes that you're seriously meant for each other and should stop screening your calls. Now the 30 minutes of agonizing silence where you're both afraid to hang up may drain your battery, but it won't drain your wallet. And you'll get unlimited calls just to check if she still cares enough to pick up, with no extra charges. With the Friends, Family, and Recent Ex-Girlfriend plan, your phone will automatically answer calls from your ex, because maybe she finally realizes that you're the only one for her and wants to get coffee sometime. Now, after lonely nights of looking at pictures of the road trip you took together when everything was great, your misspelled texts are absolutely free. The only thing you have to pay for is the booze. The Friends, Family, and Recent Ex-Girlfriend plan, because she wants you back. She just doesn't know it yet.
The Rod Eccles Show.
603-835-3224 is the number to call should you wish to join me live here on the Rod Eccles Show. Please forgive me a little bit, folks. I'm not sure what's going on. I'm feeling a little, not under the weather, but just a little exhausted lately, a little tired. So if my enthusiasm and energy level doesn't seem as high as it normally is, as far as I know, there's nothing physically or mentally wrong with me. It's just, in fact, most of you probably wouldn't even have known if I didn't mention anything, but I have to be fair to my audience and let them know, because, even I sometimes am not 100%. Now, still me being, 95%, or even if I was sick and even at 50%, that's still a hell of a lot better than most liberals out there, so that's how far and above I am in energy and intellectual logical prowess I am versus your average everyday liberal pundit. I've been listening to, Sean Hannity ask a number of liberals over the past few months about hilarious. For those of you in Rush Limbaugh's real end of that would be Hillary. Ask them, pretty point blank and frank, give me three or one simple major accomplishment of this woman's long record of public service. And, everybody always gives these long-winded generalization answers like, oh, she's advanced help advance the plight of equal rights for women. Like, why do they all come up with the same freaking stupid answer that is easily debunked? She hasn't done anything for women's rights worldwide, or even in the U.S., actually. She's done nothing. Nothing specific. I mean, she's taken money to advance her and Chelsea's own, careers, if you will. But not much to advance the equality of other women, especially in Middle Eastern countries. Oh no, she's a tireless worker for women's rights all over the globe. Really, so she's taking money from those who oppress women. To what? Get them to change? No, that doesn't seem to work very well. They tell, well, her international, she reset, she reset relations with so many nations that didn't like us. Yeah, to the point where those nations still don't like us. And now that they really laugh at us. Look at Putin and Russia. Yeah. How does that reset with you? So all of the stuff that they all say the same thing. They all come out with, these pundits, they all come out with the same answers, generalized answers when he's looking for, at least all the answers that I've heard, when he's looking for specifics that are unique to Hillary Clinton alone. And they also tout, Hillary and Obamacare. Hillary Care was, if there wasn't Hillary Care, there would be, Hillary Care was an abysmal failure, and most Americans don't want Obamacare. So I don't know how that's a success. But, they all bring up the same answers. So again, they're getting these answers from a central committee. Just listen to them. Their answers are patent, they're written for them and they're studied and remembered, memorized. I'm telling you, this is the case because all the answers are the same. They're not, well, there's only two reasons and ways for the answers to be the same. One is that the answers are being disseminated from one central location. Or those are the only things that she really has any chance of showing, a sign of an accomplishment in. Those are the only three things. Which I find that if that's the case, then again, where is her qualifications then to be president? But Hillary is Hillary, I guess. But it is what it is. Look, I think a lot of the Democrats out there are also finding Hillary a bit distasteful. Her dislike numbers are the highest of any candidate on either side of the aisle right now. Her dislike numbers, more Americans dislike her and distrust her than any other candidate right now. So you got to ask yourself, if that's the case, how can she stand at almost 60% unfavorable and still expect to win the White House? No candidate with that kind of unfavorable rate has ever won the White House for a first time or regained won re-election of the White House. And in fact, usually when those unfavorable numbers get that high, that candidate usually drops out. Plain and simple. And maybe this surge of Bernie Sanders, if Sanders comes, he's knocking on Hillary's support doorstep right now. Out there, he's like 10 points behind her in New Hampshire. He's like, in single digits behind her in Iowa, which, when you take in the amount for the air, which is like plus or minus 4%, Bernie's within striking distance. We're talking Bernie Sanders, someone who's endorsed by Elizabeth Warren. We're talking a 73-year-old, decrepit man, basically. What is he, 72, 73, 74? Somewhere around there, 73. We'll just say 73. He's either 72, he's 72 to 74, so we'll say 73. And so by the time, 2016 rolls around, he's going to be a year older, so he's going to be, 73 to 75, so we'll have to say 74. And then he's going to put in 4 years in as president. He's going to be 78. And we were told that John McCain was too old. So all of a sudden, that Bernie isn't too old, I guess, because, he's a communist. And the left likes that. But if you have a socialist communist who's, beating the pants off your moderate Democrat, I can't believe I heard somebody call, some Democrat call Hillary a Democrat moderate. There's nothing moderate about her. She's a radical leftist liberal, plain and simple. Always has been, always will be, except when it comes to her own pocket. Then she's a, card-carrying conservative capitalist. Worse than that, she's an insider traderist. This is from the Investment Watchdog or investmentwatchblog.com. Beyond sad. This is the title of the piece of the blog. The real unemployment rate was 42.9%, not 5.5%. David Stockman, a noted truther and economist truther, was looking at the so-called 5.5% unemployment rate. Now, at the present time, this is how he comes at this, and this is brilliant, actually, and it's accurate. It is absolutely fantastically accurate, because I've been saying before, if you have this many people who are no longer in the workforce and no longer looking for work, well, you have to really include them in the unemployment rolls because they're not working when they could be and should be. You take into account the loss of available jobs, and you bring the number of jobs back to a level that it was before the recession hit, and you start to combine all those numbers, and you can start to see that there's a massive destruction and downsizing of the U.S. economy as far as jobs are concerned. And the only place that there has really been any positive growth as far as employment and job growth is concerned is in the federal government. But here's how David Stockman breaks it down. At the present time, there are 210 million adult Americans between the ages of 16 and 68. Now, notice how that age is 68, not 65. See, you people think that, you're going to get your Social Security and retire, but they just push the age of retirement to 68, which is why it's included here. And 16, obviously, is the earliest or youngest in most states that you can work, even part-time, let alone full-time, without being like, on a farm or a paperboy or something like that. But, at 16, you can really pull in full-time hours, especially if you're not in school. So, at present, there are 200 million adult Americans between the ages of 16 and 68. Now, to take a plausible measure of potential work in this workforce, this is what you do. You take the number of hours that this labor force could potentially work in a year. So that 210 million between the ages of 16 and 68, that amounts to about 420 billion potential labor hours worked. Production. Any kind of production, producing something, producing a service, producing a product, doesn't matter, producing something. Now, if we accept the convention that all adults are at least theoretically capable of holding a full-time job, 2,000 hours per year, that's all it is for a full-time job, and pulling their share of society's need for production and work effort on 2,000 hours per year, by contrast, during the 2014 year, only 240 billion hours were actually supplied to the U.S. economy. In other words, only 240 billion hours were actually worked from that 210 million adult workforce, and that is out of a potential 420 billion hours, labor hours. All we got was 240 billion labor hours when we could have gotten 420 billion. So that estimate means that there were 180 billion unemployed labor hours. In other words, there should have been a potential for another 180 billion hours worked. So 180 billion hours worked would have pumped billions, hundreds of billions of dollars more into the U.S. economy. Understand? Now, you're probably saying, well, that's the same thing with unemployment, right? No. Out of the working pool. That money comes from the working pool. Those who are from, let's put it this way. When you pay somebody who isn't working money, where is that money coming from? That money is coming from the labor pool of those actually working the labor hours. So those who are working the labor hours aren't getting the full benefit of their salaries and wages because it is being taken out of the market, washed in government, where some of it is lost through government inadequacy basically, and government salary, and then a little bit is given back to the economy via unemployment insurance payments. So if a person pays, let's just say, let's use round numbers, in an annual sense, pays $1,000 into the unemployment insurance. Well, actually what gets paid out is a lot less than that. So about $300 worth. Now, these aren't my numbers. These are actually government numbers. So where is that other $700? It went poof, gone. So now we're taking a number of hours out of the current labor force to give to those who are not producing, who could be producing. And we're not giving them nearly as much as they could have been producing if they were at work. So technically, there were 180 billion unemployed labor hours, meaning that the real unemployment rate was 42.9%, not 5.5%. Now, even if you break that back down to actual numbers, if only 240 billion hours, and only which means 43% of the labor hours weren't used, well, if you take about 43% out of the workforce, well, now you're talking about 90 million people out of work. 90 million out of that 210 million between the ages of 16 and 68, and actually it's a little bit more, so I think it's the number is 98 million of those 210 million are out of work. And when you translate that into workable hours, that's a 43% unemployment rate, not 5.5%. Isn't it funny how the government can play loose with numbers? But you and I, if we play loose with our numbers, usually what you have is usually what happens is you get a letter from the IRS telling you, well, you've played loose with these numbers, so we're going to audit you. That's the truth. That's what happens. So you are not allowed to play loose with your numbers. But the government can play loose with their numbers that they're reporting to you all the time, and that's perfect. And if you demand that they be truthful with you, well, then they look at you like you're subservient, and that somehow you're inferior and a rabble rouser, and you need to be reined in. And again, they'll sick the IRS on you. That's just the way it is. Now, I realize this is probably something that most of you have never, heard put that way before. And frankly, I have heard this before. And back during the 80s, during the Ronald Reagan era, these numbers began to reverse. And what do I mean by that? Well, like under Bush, the unemployment rate was down below 4%. Now, at some particular point, I think at 4.3 or 4.5% is statistically considered to be full employment. In other words, everybody that wants a job at 4.5% has one, and the unemployment rate was lower, meaning that if you were actually to translate that into labor hours, that there were actually being produced more labor hours than there were laborers, which means that that's when you started to need certain legal immigration in order to fulfill that gap. So if the number of hours was 420 billion based on 210 million adult Americans, the actual return is that there was 500 billion hours being worked out of a potential 420. Well, you had 80 billion hours more. So what does that mean? That means that there had to be a number of legal immigrants on work visas that had to be brought into the country in order to make up that 80 billion labor hour shortfall, which gives you the whole point of why there was, and anybody who wanted a job basically under Reagan and George W. Bush had one. Look, I remember on George W. Bush, you went into the newspaper and it was page after page after page after page of, in the help wanted section. And it just wasn't general labor either. It was medical professions. It was office help. It was skilled labor like lathe operators and machinists and welders. It was job upon job upon job offer. And if you wanted a job, you went to the newspaper every Sunday. That's when the all the daily papers have their Sunday papers, and that's when the biggest help wanted section happened. And it was a separate. I remember the Boston Globe was it was a good 10 pages of help wanted ads. And that was the same thing back in back under Reagan and George Herbert Walker Bush for a while. mean, it was insane. There were more jobs than there were workers. Literally. Now, today, not only do we have like 98 million people who aren't even counted in the labor force anymore, they're just out of it. But the government has also stopped counting the number. So if you actually look at the number of jobs that were available back under, let's use this easy math number so you understand it. Say that this country had 200 million jobs. You know, it filled and unfilled. There was a pool of 200 million jobs. Now, under Obama and the recession that he did not recover from, out of that 200 million, we lost jobs. Now, granted, yeah, some of that came, at the end of Bush's term, but let's face it, most of it came under Obama. And so now, instead of 200 million jobs that they're counting in this labor pool, they're only counting 130 million jobs. Well, where did the 70 million go? Well, poof, they're gone. Well, wait a minute. We had 70 million that just went bye-bye. Those could still be here if we had a decent and sane domestic economic policy. Yeah, it could be. And therefore, but if those were still here and available, well, that means that the unemployment number would be even higher. If you take those numbers into account, yes, it would be. Because our government is playing fast and loose with the numbers in order to make it look good for Obama. Now, I am not an economist, but I understand these numbers. They're not hard to understand. Now, we can all argue the nuances about why this happened. The point is that it did happen. It happened under the watch of the Obama administration, under Obama's policies. And we're seeing this being manipulated under Obama in his administration, being handed out and meted out to us on a daily basis. We're being fed a bunch of manipulated half-truths. Plain and simple. The economy, folks, really still sucks. And it's not something that you and I can change on a whim because... Look, I always tell people, you know what? You have to be in this type of position. If they throw a recession, you just have to refuse to participate. You have to do everything within your power to refuse to participate. If that means upping your skills and your education level, do it. If that means starting your own business, do it. If it means getting a second or even a third job, part-time job, do it. Just don't participate. Don't sit back and whine, waiting for a compromise, because a compromise means you're not going to get a job. Plain and simple. A compromise means that, we're going to get some people jobs. Other people, well, you're on your own. Well, is that a fair compromise to you? I mean, I don't think it's really fair. You can't, when you have an unemployment rate of 40% or even, in the teens, that's just awful in a country that has the ability not to have it. In a country with an ability to have a 5% unemployment rate. But instead, we're being fed a bill of goods and a bunch of lies. Plain and simple. We'll be back.
I'm just so happy my father had a chance to see his kids before he passed. I just want to say thank you.
When her father fell ill, the American Red Cross was able to help get Veronica's brother home from the Navy to speak to his father one last time. It's thanks to your donations that we can connect military families when they need it most. Please donate today at redcross.org.
If you want to work until you keel over, have less of everything in retirement, or give back more of your hard-earned money to the stock market again, then just ignore me. But if you'd like to protect the money you save, receive a steady, predictable retirement income, and enjoy financial security for as long as you live, then listen to this. You can download a free report that reveals the wealth-building secrets Wall Street and the banks don't want you to know. You'll learn how you can get guaranteed growth, safety, and real prosperity without risking your money in the Wall Street casino, and how to get the money you need when you need it, simply by asking for it. This is the best way to have a 100% secure retirement, and know your money will last as long as you do. To learn more about this method, and to get your free report, go to 52security.com. That's the number 52security.com. 52security.com. Go to 52security.com.
Hurt or injured in a car accident? It can be hard to take the proper legal action after a car accident, but waiting can cost you more. The law requires car accident victims to assert claims promptly. You could lose out by simply waiting. Call 800-709-4667 right now to see what your claim could be worth when handled by a skilled attorney. With a lawyer fighting and speaking up for you, you could be entitled to a big cash award. Call 800-709-4667. That's 800-709-4667. Now it's fast and easy to connect with the legal help you need after your car accident. Call 800-709-4667. The call is free, but you need to act now before time runs out on your claim. You need a lawyer to fight for you, protect you, and get you the compensation you need and deserve. Time's wasting. Call 800-709-4667. That's 800-709-4667. Call now.
I considered suicide so I wouldn't put my family through all the pain.
Many of our warriors are returning home from the battlefield, only to face a new war as they struggle with devastating injuries. At Wounded Warrior Project, we understand. We're there to help.
Even though you think you're broken, you're not. It's the physical and the emotional healing that Wounded Warrior Project provides.
With a gift of just $19 a month, you can join Wounded Warrior Project. You'll help provide critically needed programs and services that rebuild lives.
Beautiful. There you go, buddy.
The ongoing needs of our wounded and their families will continue for many years to come. Now is the time to show your support. Call now or go online with your gift of just $19 a month, and we'll send you this Wounded Warrior Project blanket.
It made me feel that there's people out there that care about us.
After this event, we can finally maybe start to heal as a family and move forward.
We need your help. The families are hurting.
For many of our wounded heroes, the greatest casualty is being forgotten. That's why your gift of just $19 a month is so important. Please, call or go online right now.
The following letters were written by our troops.
My dear fellow Americans, I truly appreciate your support. I was starting to wonder if people had forgotten about us over here. But then one of my buddies showed me this website, and now as tears are streaming down my face, I can see for sure that you haven't. Private Emily B., U.S. Army.
It's so heartwarming to see the American people not letting the men and women of the armed forces be forgotten. Your letters make a group of grown men, battle-hardened and gruff, act like a bunch of kids around a Christmas tree. Thanks. Staff Sergeant Matthew H., U.S. Army.
Your support may be the most important thing our troops can carry with them. But don't take our word for it. Take theirs. To show your support, visit americasupportsyou.mil. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Defense and the Ad Council.
Millions of Americans every day are shedding unwanted pounds by taking tested and proven Ultra Lipo Stick. Carbohydrates are bad. Our carbo-fighting antioxidant is good. Just listen to these satisfied customers.
My name is Gail, and I lost like 20 pounds on Ultra Lipo Stick.
My name is Jared, and I lost 46 pounds using Ultra Lipo Stick.
My name is Zach, and I actually gained weight. This stuff sucks!
Ultra Lipo Stick is safe and easy to inject. Just 3 doses 4 times a day discreetly underneath your fingernail. Listen to this.
I used Ultra Lipo Stick and suffered from side effects like uncontrollable greasy discharge.
Ultra Lipo Stick, it turned the armpits of all of my shirts orange. This stuff is crap.
Try it today and see some real results. Ultra Lipo Stick. Not available in stores. Results may vary.
Zinc Media. Feel the power of knowledge.
Most politically incorrect black man on the planet, Rod Eccles.
You know, when it comes to labor, it also comes down to taxes, which is one of the things I don't fully understand why Democrats wouldn't want a full employment for the American people, because then they'd have, you know, all this extra tax money to spend, and you know, they'd be closer to their utopia in spending. But you know, it just goes to show you that they want to be able to be the ones who lord over you and take care of you more than they want you to be able to take care of yourself and pay and give them money. Because they'll just flush the money out of thin air, you know. They'll print more of it, or they'll borrow more of it. You know, it's a kind of amazing, because you see where borrowing too much borrowing can get you. Detroit, you know, files bankruptcy, and then we have you know, Puerto Rico, who is on the verge of defaulting on some of their debt, and of course Greece has already defaulted today. Some of their payments were due, and they didn't make the payments. So now they're a country officially in default. The interesting thing is that if you see what's happening in Greece, and some of the protesters, what they're doing is they're blaming the bankers who loaned them the money. They're saying, well, you know, you don't deserve to get your money back. Okay, so I gave you $100 million. I expected you to pay me back $100 million, plus, you know, reasonable amount of it. I don't think the interest rates, I don't really know what the numbers were, but they were probably not fully unreasonable. So even if there was a 0 interest rate, Greece still wasn't paying it back. So think about this for a second. It's not just that the Greeks missed an interest payment, but they're not paying back the principal. If they just said, you know what, we're not going to pay you interest, but we'll give you back the principal, you know, all the parties might have said, okay, well, you know, I guess in real dollar terms, in inflation, maybe we lost a little, but, you know, they paid us back the principal, and that's a good thing. But they're not even doing that. And these people, and some of these, you know, ultra liberals in Greece think that the bankers should go to jail for loaning them money. What? How do you compromise with that? It's the same thing here in this country. We've got people who want to blame the bankers for loaning the college student all of that money for them to go to college, And then deciding, and the college students, well, you know what? I can't afford it at 6%. Well, honey, you can't afford $200,000 in student loan debt at 3%. You can't afford $200,000 at 0%. The point is that you couldn't afford to take the loan. Well, why did they give me the money? Because you promised to pay it back. It's not the bank's problem that you can't make the payments. What are they supposed to do? Just give you the money? Nobody's doing that. I mean, this is a ridiculous notion that you're look, because banks is big banks, small banks, it doesn't matter. Either they're a mutual bank, meaning that the depositors own the bank, the depositors, not the rich people, the deposit, everybody who's got a deposit in that bank owns the bank. So, you're cheating the average, everyday, possibly blue-collar worker out of their money if you don't pay them back. Or some of the commercial banks, they have a lot of stock out there, and that stock is owned by a lot of, is owned by a lot of Americans in mutual funds and their retirement funds. So, again, if you don't pay back, pay back the loan, you're hurting the average American, the hardworking 40-hour, 50-hour, 60-hour a week, wage-earning, low-salary worker who's just trying to save for their retirement. You're hurting them. But that's not who you always think about, because that's not who the left wants you to think about. It's not who the left tells you are the bulk of the, who own a large portion of all of the banks across America. It's not, it's not the big CEO. Sure, the CEOs may pull down a big, huge salary, but let's face it, the people who own the banks, the stockholders or the shareholders or the mutual holders, they're the ones that are going to get stung if a bank goes under. Because people don't want to pay back money that they freely borrowed and promised to pay back. Isn't that wonderful? We have this new Keynesian style of economy. You loan me money, I don't pay you back. Well, that's a gift. Nope, you're loaning it to me. Well, no, loaning means that you'll pay it back. No, I don't have to pay it back. Well, then it's a gift. No, I don't want charity. If I wanted charity, I would have went to a charity. Well, then you have to pay it back. No, I don't have to pay it back. I don't want to pay it back. Well, then you want a gift. I don't want charity. You see where this is going? It's almost like a Robin Hood mentality. And well, I'm sorry. Welcome, hello, my fellow Americans. It is I, your lovable host, L. Rod, coming to you live from my bunkerized home studio somewhere within the great granite state of New Hampshire, where the state motto is still live free or die. And it is live free or die because not big government or bust. And I know this because I checked again today, as I do almost every day. And yes, I checked again today. It is Tuesday, June the 30th, in the year of our Lord 2015, which means it's the last day of June, which means tomorrow is the first day of July, which really technically is kind of the first month of summer. And so we're expecting Mother Nature to cooperate here in the Northern Hemisphere and give us warm, hot weather for summer. Whether or not she'll actually listen to us little puny, teeny tiny men and women is yet to be seen. The number that you can call this evening is toll-free 603-835-3224. That's 603-835-3224 if you wish to call me and talk to me about some of the stuff I've been talking about tonight. Greece is now in default on their bailout. Now remember, this is a bailout that they got because they borrowed too much in the first place, and they had too much debt in the first place, and they didn't have any fiscal responsibility in the first place, and so in order to save the Greeks. The International Monetary Fund and the European Union came up with this way to save the Greeks, And they told the Greeks, well, we'll give you this money, but you got to do, certain things in order to rein in your spending, because you just can't keep going this way. And so you'll be able to pay us back, so you can get your economy going again, and so the people can be paying taxes, so you can pay us back and pay what you need to pay, to keep your government and your country going. And the Greeks said, yeah, okay, that sounds good. Yeah, we promise to pay you back. We can do it. We can do it. We can do it. And the time comes, no, we're not going to do it. We're not going to do it. We're not going to do it. Not going to do it. Can't do it. Can't do it at this juncture. You're going to have to give us an infusion of cash, or you're going to have to restructure the debt, or we're just going to default. And, well, there was another option, too, or you could just forgive the whole debt. That's what they were really trying to push for. Just forgive it. Just give us the money. But that would be a gift. No. We're not begging. We're not beggars. We don't. We're not asking you to give us a gift. You're just helping out a fellow European Union country. Yeah, you want a gift? No. We don't want a gift. We just want the option to not to have to pay you back. So you want a gift? No, we want a loan, but we just want to have the option of not paying you back. Kind of like, the kid walks into Harvard and says, okay, I want to go to school here. And Harvard says, okay, we'll take you. We'll accept you. This is what it's going to cost you for a 4-year education, room and board, and books and tuition and all that kind of stuff. $250,000 is what it's going to cost you total. Oh, okay. Yeah, sure. No negotiating. Yeah, sure. Okay, we can do that. I don't have $250,000 though. When am I going to get that? Harvard says, you can apply for loans from banks. And the student says, yeah. Because you know what, student? You get an education here at Harvard. We're going to, we can't guarantee you, but, it's Harvard. So you're most likely going to get a job when you get out. So it doesn't matter what your degree is. So, and if you decide to take, 4 years or 4.5 years of underwater ancient historical art, then, you're going to get a job afterwards, because, you're going to have a Harvard degree, a bachelor's degree in underwater historical art from Harvard. Yeah. Okay. That's cool. That's really cool. Yeah. I want to borrow the money then. And the kid, goes to the bank, and the bank says, you sure you want to do this, kid? Let's see if you'll be able to pay this back. Okay. You think you can pay this back? We're going to let you go. You don't have to pay anything until you graduate and get your degree, or unless you drop out of school. But then we're going to give you 6 months to find a job and start working so you can start earning money to pay the bill. Yeah, that's going to be so cool. That's going to be so great. I'll have a job. I promise to pay you back plus interest. Now, here's the interest rate at 6%. You sure you want to do that? Yeah, no problem. Okay, here you go. So 4.5 months later, kid's got his degree in hand, no job, or he's underemployed in a job that he didn't study for. After all, he did earn a degree in underwater historical art. So he's looking and saying, "Wow, I can't pay this loan back. This is not fair." Is he blaming Harvard for selling him an overpriced degree? No. He's looking at the bank and said, you gave me this money. Well, no, we loaned it. Well, you loaned me this money knowing that I wasn't going to be able to pay it back. It's your fault. Well, no, you promised us that you were getting a degree that was going to get you a job that was going to help you pay back the loan. Well, this shouldn't be a loan at 6%. You should cut my interest rate. Well, it sounds like, looking at your financial situation, that you can't afford to even pay back the principal, let alone the interest. Well, yeah, that's why you should forgive the debt. Well, we can't do that. The government won't let us do that. Well, you should. Well, you want a gift then? No, I don't want a handout. I just want you to forgive the loan. Well, that would be a gift. Well, I can't afford to pay it, but you promised to pay it. Well, so what? And then you get Elizabeth Warren that comes along and says, yes, we should cut the interest rate in half to help these poor students afford to pay back. Miss Warren, first of all, if they weren't charged $250,000 from Harvard in the first place, they wouldn't have such a large debt. And therefore, whether or not they have 6% or 3% isn't going to make that much of a difference in their debt repayment schedule. The problem is they have a principal balance of $250,000 that they can't even afford to pay that back. It's all the bank's fault. You shouldn't have given him the money in the first place. We didn't give it, we loaned it. Because the government asked us to. And this is what's been happening. And now you have all these students saying, well, we're just going to default. Much like Greece. And a lot of these banks, they're not huge international banks. They're, some of them are local or small town banks. And the local depositors are going to be on the hook for this because these kids they can't pay back these inflated tuition prices that they were sold a bill of goods to. Now, nobody's talking about big education overcharging their students. We get all this notion, big business and big medicine and all that kind of stuff. They overcharge people. And what was it? Whole Foods the other day was being targeted and accused of overcharging their customer on certain foodstuffs. Like, okay. So, maybe $1 or $2 they're being overcharged for something. But is it really overcharging? Well, how about the tuition bill of these kids at these private schools? We're talking thousands of dollars, not less than $100 over a year. We're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars they're being overcharged. And a lot of them are getting degrees that these colleges have just invented over the last 5 years that have no meaning and no usefulness, and yet they're charging them outrageous tuition, room and board fees in order to get these useless new degrees. Like underwater historical art. I know some of you out there in Rush Limbaugh's Real Linda are probably thinking, is there really a degree program for underwater or historical art? What is underwater historical? It is a facetious degree. It does not exist in real life. But the premise of what I'm trying to get across is there. There are useless degrees. And if there was a degree of underwater historical art, how useful would that be in the real world? It wouldn't be. It'd be absolutely useless. Well, it just shows you I'm trying to illustrate the absurd by being absurd and showing you that you're sending your kids off to these institutes of higher learning that are giving them fake degrees that are not going to lead them to any kind of job whatsoever because they don't exist in real life. And real business is going to look at this degree and say, oh, you have a bachelor's degree in underwater historical art. What are you going to do for me with this? And the student will sit there. Well, it's because, you know what? I'm a go-getter. Mr. Hiring Manager, I'm a go-getter. I'm disciplined. I sat down and I studied for 4 years to get this degree. And I'm a quick learner. Well, you didn't learn very quick to find out that this was a useless degree. Next. It's not the bank's fault when you borrow money. I don't care if it's for an individual for whatever reason, or if it's governments for whatever reason. If you willingly borrow the money, you owe it to those who loan it to you to pay them back. At least pay the principal. You can negotiate if you want on the interest rate, but you're still going to have to pay back at least the principal. And to say, well, we're not going to pay you is after you've agreed to pay. I mean, that's just the lowest of low. That in my book, that's kind of stealing, actually. No, I don't, look, I fully understand that some people, well, all I can do is pay $30 a month, man. That's really all I can do. Well, go ahead. Well, at this rate, it's going to take me 500 years to pay it back. Well, you're at least making an honest attempt. If really that's all you can do for now. Hopefully in the future, as you gain experience and knowledge in your job, you'll move up the company ladder, if you will, and earn a bigger, badder, faster salary that'll help you pay back the borrower. But you got to make some sort of effort, even if it's just $30 a month, if it's $3 a month. It shows some sort of self-responsibility that you borrowed the money, you recognize that you willingly borrowed it. The money really doesn't belong to you because it's borrowed money, and you have to attempt to at least try to pay back the principal. An honest to goodness try to pay back the principal. Now, see what Greece should have done and said, you know what, we can't give you a $400 million payment, but we got $100 million here. Can that do for now? That's what they should have done. But they just decided, well, we're not going to pay him anything. That's wrong. That is wrong. Plain and simple. That's how economies get hurt. Not only do economies get hurt by their governments or people borrowing too much, but also when you don't pay it back. It's just called a work ethic. You simply just have to go out there and do it. I know it can be tough sometimes, but we're talking. We're talking a modern country here, Greece. Greece is the first developed country to fall into arrears on payments to the International Monetary Fund. Now, the last country to do that was Zimbabwe back in 2001. Now, I don't know if you could actually call Zimbabwe a developed nation. But maybe, maybe the IMF is saying, yeah, they're a developed country. Okay. So they were the last one to do that in 2001. So Greece was supposed to pay back $1.8 billion to the IMF, and they didn't pay any of it. Nada. So who's that going to hurt? Well, it's going to hurt other countries that really possibly could use a loan or some help, assistance, because now the money isn't going to be there. We don't have an infinite amount of money. I mean, we have an infinite amount of wealth, but we have to go out and develop it and create it and harvest it. But we don't have an infinite amount of money. See, wealth and money are not the same things, folks. It's like, wealth and salary. You could be worth $1 million, but you don't have $1 million salary. Not the same thing. And I know too many people in this country think that it is the same thing. It's not the same thing. Not by a long shot. Well, some people are going to have to learn the hard way that wealth and money are not the same thing. Because wealth oftentimes is simply on paper. Wealth oftentimes is not actually real. Oh, yeah, my house is worth $1 million. Okay. But can you get $1 million out of it? Well, if I go to the bank, they won't loan me $1 million. Well, the only way you're going to get $1 million is if you sell it. Yeah. Well, what if there's nobody out there who's willing to pay you $1 million for your house? Oh, what if they're only willing? What if the highest bid is only $900,000? Well, no, it's worth $1 million. No, if the highest bid is $900,000 cash, that's what the house is worth. It's worth whatever cash you can get out of it. Nothing more. That whole wealth argument is on paper. It's fleeting. It can be created and destroyed with a pencil eraser. Cash is king, and it's not the same as wealth. Don't doubt me on this, folks. I don't know why I have to give people an economic lesson. I'm not even an economic professor or sitting in an economic, I'm not even an economic student, but I understand all of this. I don't know why other people don't.
Hi, I'm George Foreman. Do you have an idea for a new product or invention? People ask me all the time, George, how do I get my idea in front of companies? How do I get a patent? What do I do next? I'll tell you like I'll tell them all. Call my friends at InventHelp.
Call InventHelp today for free information. InventHelp can submit your invention to companies who are interested in receiving new ideas. Call InventHelp today.
To get your free inventor's information, call 1-800-352-1609. That's 1-800-352-1609.
If you want to work until you keel over, have less of everything in retirement, or give back more of your hard-earned money to the stock market again, then just ignore me. But if you'd like to protect the money you save, receive a steady, predictable retirement income, and enjoy financial security for as long as you live, then listen to this. You can download a free report that reveals the wealth-building secrets Wall Street and the banks don't want you to know. You'll learn how you can get guaranteed growth, safety, and real prosperity without risking your money in the Wall Street casino, and how to get the money you need when you need it, simply by asking for it. This is the best way to have a 100% secure retirement and know your money will last as long as you do. To learn more about this method and to get your free report, go to 52security.com. That's the number 52security.com. 52security.com. Go to 52security.com.
Hurt or injured in a car accident? It can be hard to take the proper legal action after a car accident, but waiting can cost you more. The law requires car accident victims to assert claims promptly. You could lose out by simply waiting. Call 800-709-4667 right now to see what your claim could be worth when handled by a skilled attorney. With a lawyer fighting and speaking up for you, you could be entitled to a big cash award. Call 800-709-4667. That's 800-709-4667. Now it's fast and easy to connect with the legal help you need after your car accident. Call 800-709-4667. The call is free, but you need to act now before time runs out on your claim. You need a lawyer to fight for you, protect you, and get you the compensation you need and deserve. Time's wasting. Call 800-709-4667. That's 800-709-4667. Call now.
I considered suicide so I wouldn't put my family through all the pain.
Many of our warriors are returning home from the battlefield, only to face a new war as they struggle with devastating injuries. At Wounded Warrior Project, we understand. We're there to help.
Even though you think you're broken, you're not. It's the physical and the emotional healing that Wounded Warrior Project provides.
With a gift of just $19 a month, you can join Wounded Warrior Project. You'll help provide critically needed programs and services that rebuild lives.
Beautiful. There you go, buddy.
The ongoing needs of our wounded and their families will continue for many years to come. Now is the time to show your support. Call now or go online with your gift of just $19 a month and we'll send you this Wounded Warrior Project blanket.
It made me feel that there's people out there that care about us.
After this event, we can finally maybe start to heal as a family and move forward.
We need your help. The families are hurting.
For many of our wounded heroes, the greatest casualty is being forgotten. That's why your gift of just $19 a month is so important. Please call or go online right now.
You shouldn't have to pay to talk to the people closest to you, or the people who used to be. That's why Umbrella Wireless is proud to announce the new Friends, Family, and Recent Ex-Girlfriend plan. Now you'll get unlimited calls to your best buddy, your mom, or Cindy, once she realizes that you're seriously meant for each other and should stop screening your calls. Now the 30 minutes of agonizing silence where you're both afraid to hang up may drain your battery, but it won't drain your wallet. And you'll get unlimited calls just to check if she still cares enough to pick up. with no extra charges. With the Friends, Family, and Recent Ex-Girlfriend plan, your phone will automatically answer calls from your ex, because maybe she finally realizes that you're the only one for her and wants to get coffee sometime. Now, after lonely nights of looking at pictures of the road trip you took together when everything was great, your misspelled texts are absolutely free. The only thing you have to pay for is the booze. The Friends, Family, and Recent Ex-Girlfriend plan, because she wants you back. She just doesn't know it yet.
You're listening to The Rod Eccles Show.
You know, folks, I just want you to know that according to CNN, new article today, you are making an island disappear. One of the clearest injustices of climate change. The Marshall Islands likely won't exist if we warm the planet 2 degrees. Now, this is today. Now, might I remind you that back in 2010, there was another article that said exactly the same thing. If the planet, if it warms 2 degrees. Now, the problem is that the planet hasn't been warming for the last 18 years. So they keep telling us that the oceans are rising, and the reality is that the ocean levels have actually shrunk because of why? Because of all the polar ice that has formed on the north and south poles. The polar ice caps have grown. So that water has to come from somewhere. So this whole scenario that these archipelago types of islands, these coral types of islands are going to disappear. Well, that happens anyway and has always happened throughout the eons of history here on this planet. Now, here's a story to buffer this from National Geographic. Now, understand, National Geographic is not a bastion of conservative thought. And here's the question that they pose, and it's in their In Focus blog section. Will Pacific Island nations disappear as seas rise? Well, maybe not. In fact, National Geographic found that reef islands can grow and change shape as sediments shift, studies show. Oh, wait a minute now. Wait a minute. Well, hold on there, doggy. In the CNN story, Angie Hippisis heard her nephew, Mark, banging on the door, screaming in the Marshallese. In other words, there's flooding happening. Not again, not again, not again. She says, well, you know what? If it's happening once, why don't you get the hell out? You know, it's like that where the rest of the world is supposed to be put on hold because a few hundred or a few thousand idiots want to stay on an island paradise. So, well, evidently it's not paradise. Now, out here in the middle of the Pacific, somewhere between Australia and Hawaii, there's a place where no one has the luxury of denying the existence of climate change. Oh, really? Well, there is no climate change. No man-made climate change. Of course, nobody's denying climate change as a natural order of things because the Earth naturally has its own cycles. We as man have nothing to do with it. People in the Marshall Islands are living it and have been living it. They've internalized the gravest of predictions that the Marshall Islands, this loose collection of non-elevation coral atolls, likely will be submerged beneath the waves as humans continue to warm the atmosphere, but there has been no warming in the past 18 years, and the oceans continue to rise. The ocean levels have actually fallen due to all the ice. They've seen their homes flood frequently. Well, that's because they're in an atoll. You know, they make it sound like it should never flood. Now, Marjorie Anugar watched the remains of his infant son, George, who died at 7 months, wash into the Pacific from a coastal graveyard. Well, I guess you mean you can't look. Even you can't bury people on an atoll. They're not going to stay there. A few people are already making the difficult decision to leave this country, in part because of the frequency of floods and the threat to climate change. And I found some of them seeking refuge in the most unexpected places. In the 9 days I spent in Majuro, Majuro, the crescent-shaped capital of the Marshall Islands, I learned there is nowhere on these islands to escape the floods. Because they're all atolls that are like only a few inches above sea level. But here's the problem. Back to National Geographic. If you were faced with the threat of the disappearance of your nation, what would you do? That's the question Ineli Sopoga, the Prime Minister of the tiny Pacific island nation of Tuvalu, asked fellow world leaders at the United Nations Climate Summit in Lima, Peru back in December. Now, it's a question that leaders of Pacific Island states have been asking for decades as a warming climate drives sea levels upwards. Low-lying island nations face an uncertain future or no future at all, say these leaders who warn their nations imminent disappearance. Now, officials in Tuvalu, 600 miles or so as a bird flies, as a crow flies, north of Fiji, have been some of the most vocal critics of the world's large greenhouse gas emitters, industrialized nations such as the United States and China, which they accuse of not doing enough to curb emissions, contributing to the melting of ice sheets and rising seas. But there hasn't been any melting. It's all freezing. Now, these are desperate questions, but how real is the threat? Are island nations like Tuvalu, where most of the land is barely above sea level, destined to sink beneath the waves like modern-day Atlantises? This is National Geographic now. Not necessarily. According to a growing body of evidence amassed by New Zealand coastal geomorphologist Paul Kench at the University of Auckland School of Environment and colleagues in Australia and Fiji who have been studying how reef islands in the Pacific and Indian Oceans respond to rising sea levels. They found that reef islands change shape and move around in response to shifting sediments that many of them are actually growing in size, not shrinking. As sea levels inches upward, the implication is that many islands, especially less developed ones with few permanent structures, may cope with rising seas well into the next century. But for areas that have been transformed by human development, such as the capitals of Kiribati, Tuvalu, and Maldives, the future is considerably gloomier. That's largely because there are many structures, seawalls, roads, and water and electricity systems are locked in place. So in other words, it's not the United States and China in our industrialized ways of living that are dooming these islands. It's the islanders themselves, according to a growing body of information and research. They're killing their islands. They're killing their own islands. Now, their analysis, which now extends to more than 600 coral reef islands in the Pacific and Indian Oceans, indicate that about 80% of the islands have remained stable or increased in size. Roughly 40% in each category. Only 20% have shown the net reduction that's widely assumed to be a typical island's fate when sea levels rise. These tend to be highly inhabited islands. What? Oh, so you people down there in the Maldives and in the Marshall Islands who are complaining that it is, the United States and China and India and all the industrialized nations who are causing the rise in sea levels, which is causing the sinking and flooding of your islands, you're now finding out that you're the direct cause of your beloved islands of being swamped. Now, what say you? Isn't that interesting? So, are we to help you now because of your own selfish desire to live someplace, obviously, that man was not intended to be? I mean, look, just because, there's a surface, a dry surface doesn't mean that man is intended to live there. I'm just saying. Now, some islands, the study has shown, have grown by as much as 14 acres in a single decade. Now, Tuvalu's main atoll, Funafuti, 33 islands distributed around the rim of a large lagoon, has gained 75 acres of land during the past 115 years. Now, 2/3 of the reef islands in the study migrated lagoonward as their ocean-side coastlines eroded and sediment built up on the side facing the lagoon. Now, one of Fanafuti's islands shifted more than 350 feet over 40 years. And again, this is a natural rise and ebb and tide of the tide. I often hear people talk about, the beach used to be way out there before. Now look at it. It's way up here now. Well, that's just the net. Look, Niagara Falls used to be, the falls used to be farther down than where it is now. It's because of erosion. Man has nothing to do with it. Often we try to either slow or reverse erosion, but eventually erosion from the ocean, it wins out. I mean, you can't. I mean, in reef islands are, according to Kench, are among the most dynamic landforms on Earth, constantly shifting and changing. And Tuvalu's are some of the most dynamic on record, meaning they've shifted the most. So it isn't so much that it's industrialization of these big countries that are putting noxious gases, global warming gases in the air. No. It's turning out to be that the very inhabitants of these atolls are causing their own destruction just by being there. So we don't have to, we're not the ones responsible for their losing their land. They are. And they have to figure out a way how to get their islands to grow instead of sink. But plain and simple. The oceans have risen and fallen for centuries. But they're not rising right now because there's just way too much ice out there in the poles. Hey, we have an FCC chairman who's saying, I've said this before, and I find it kind of interesting that the FCC commissioner is now saying this, and this is reported on CNSnews.com. The internet access is not a basic human right. Well, it's not. Yeah, it's not. Communication Commission, the Federal Communication Commission member Michael O'Reilly says it is ludicrous to compare internet access to a basic human right. Now, human rights are standards of behavior that are inherent in every human being, O'Reilly said Thursday in a speech to the Internet Innovation Alliance, a coalition of businesses and nonprofit organizations. They are core principles which core principles underpinning human interaction in society. Now, these include liberty, due process or justice, and freedom of religious beliefs. Evidently, you do not have a right to, certain things in society that somebody else has invented. I love that. Man didn't invent water, and that's a basic, need for people to live. But you can't collect your own water in certain states. But that's, but the internet's a human right. Water's not a human right, but the internet is, according to liberals. Go figure that one. There was, I wasn't even going to mention this anymore, but there's another article that's streaming into my stream. Gay diplomats. We like to, this whole notion that, we're so advanced now, because now that we have gay marriage and we're just going to force, gay rights all over the place. But U.S. and British promotion of LGBT rights abroad sparks a backlash. Stepped up efforts by the U.S. and British governments to promote homosexual rights abroad are risking a backlash in conservative countries where critics say the West is trying to impose norms that clash with local traditions, local religion, and local culture. While the Obama administration characterizes its aim as upholding the human rights of lesbians, gay, bisexual, transgendered people, the campaign is perceived instead in some of these countries as a drive to promote homosexual lifestyle and behavior. Now, opposition has been stoked by several developments, including remarks by President Obama during a visit to Africa last month, his nomination in June of 5 openly gay political appointees as ambassadors, and British Prime Minister David Cameron's comments last week, and his desire to export same-sex marriage around the world now that Britain has legalized it. Yeah, they did. Now, the latest flare-up in reaction is in Nigeria, where the government on Monday sought to calm anger over comments by Foreign Minister Ashiru, who was quoted as telling the official news agency of Nigeria last week that if we have diplomats with same-sex spouses posted in Nigeria, we have no choice but to accredit them accordingly because they come from countries where such law legalizing same-sex marriage is in place. In a strong worded statement, the Christian Association of Nigeria called for Ashiru's dismissal and said any nation sending a diplomat in a same-sex marriage relationship to Nigeria would be violating the law of the land. Now, that is absolutely true. You don't have, when you're going to somebody else's country, you've got to follow their laws. Diplomatically. Now, the Christian Association of Nigeria spokesman Sunday Oibi said accrediting such an ambassador would be tantamount to accepting gay marriage through the back door. We want to make it abundantly clear, be it America or Britain or any country that sends a gay diplomat to Nigeria, we will mobilize and chase him out of our country. So this whole notion that you're going to start forcing other countries to accept our way of life, I mean, after all, we're not supposed to interfere with them, right? We're always told by the left that we shouldn't be interfering in other countries. So, look, I guess, what was Chris Anderson in Libya, the Benghazi thing. I guess he was gay. I thought he was married to a woman. I didn't know, but they kind of made it clear that they didn't like gays. And are you going to post homosexuals to countries that have laws against homosexuality? Well, I don't think that that's going to go over very well. And you might find that those diplomats will not be received, as it is within that country's right. I hate to say it, but it is. Hey, if you want to have now, I'd like to see you try to send a gay diplomat to Saudi Arabia or Jordan or Indonesia or Malaysia, Mr. Obama, where you spent a good amount of your childhood. Try that. That's not going to happen. That's not going to go over very well. Just, I'm not trying to promote lack of diversity or remove diversity or any of that kind of stuff. But at the same time, you also have to understand that these countries do not often and will not often believe as we believe. Hell, you got a lot of people here in this country that still don't believe that was the accurate way to go. And now we're going to be... they look at the United States and now Britain as exporting not the best ideas and culture and part of the culture that we have to offer, but the worst. And this is why so many of these countries don't like the United States. They don't like the West because we're exporting not the best of our culture to them, but they feel that we're exporting and trying to force down their throats the worst of our culture. And in some respects, they have that absolutely correct. If your country, that you want to have good diplomatic relations with, has a law against homosexuality or frowns upon it, why the hell would you appoint a homosexual diplomat? Now, it doesn't mean that they can't do it does mean they can't do their job there because they won't be allowed to. They won't be received well. So why would you do that? If you really wanted to, just send them to a nation where it would be more acceptable. You don't get to dictate somebody else's internal policy. You can try to influence it from the outside, but you don't do it by doing that. Plain and simple. And who are you going to sue? Who is the diplomat going to sue? Who is the ambassador going to... Well, I'm going to sue that country because they won't let me be their ambassador. Well, they don't have to. It's their prerogative. It's their country, not yours. You can go back to your own country and promote that kind of stuff if you want to, but they're saying you're not allowed to do that here because we don't want it here. For whatever reason, religious or societal or traditional, we're not going to allow it. And we're not, and there's no, you're not going to pressure them into changing. As I said before, the 21 nations that have legalized gay marriage, they tend to, most of them, I think, only all but 3 or 4 of them are led by majority white Western nations. South American, African, Eastern European, Asian nations tend to be non-white. They're not going for it. They're not. And there's just no way you're going to force them to do such a thing, especially with such hardcore religious. I mean, can you imagine the Orthodox Greeks or Orthodox Christians in Russia? No, they're not going for it. Can you imagine Saudi Arabia and all the other Islamic nations going for it? No, they're not going for it. Malaysia, nope. Can you imagine the communist nations like China? Nope, they're not going for it. None of them are, folks. It's only us. And they're not going to allow us to come in and try to dictate their internal policy. Well, I'm out of time for today, folks. This is, I will not be back tomorrow or for the rest of the week, so happy 4th of July weekend, folks. We'll see you again when we see you. Have a great night. I'm out.